You have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. You don't need a TV. Television addict! Television addict! Television addict!
Hey everybody, welcome to TV Guidance Counselor. It is Ken Reed here, your TV Guidance Counselor, as always, discussing classic television with back issues of TV Guide magazine from my personal collection as the gateway into our collective past. This week, my guest is TJ Connelly, and TJ, we mentioned this here as a guy that I don't think I've ever met in person, but that seems strange. Like, we've probably almost met by seconds, several hundred times. He runs Uncertain FM. He's also the go-to DJ for all the sporting teams here in New England, does the big arena DJ stuff. Very funny guy, very interesting guy that my dog takes umbrage with. But that is not TJ's fault. That is strictly Pete's problem, because Pete, he hates sports and he hates DJs, but you know what? He's a dog and that's fine. And as I said, he's a touchy guy, Pete. He hates most things. He's the oldest of the three dogs, but you're not here to hear about my dogs. You're here to hear about classic television, and that is exactly what we do. We're doing a week in September 1987, and this week is an amazing week of TV, if I do say so myself. So many ridiculously great things debuted that week, and things that I talk about all the time on the show and that are deeply ingrained in my psyche. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of TV Guidance Counselor with my guest, TJ Connelly.
TV is my friend, and it has been always there for me in time of need.
TJ Connelly, how are you, sir?
I'm great. Hello. Hi, it's great to be here. I'm excited.
Thank you for doing this. We were just discussing that if any point during this you disappear, or I hear someone coming through your wall, your neighbors may be trying to do a hostile takeover of your home. Mm-hmm. So I will avenge you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
That is all I can promise, is that I will avenge you.
That's good. Yeah, you get to see them actually drill through the wall somehow. I don't know. They used to do like piano lessons, which was just a whole thing. Just to like, it's tough. Basically, it was like, why is someone playing The Entertainer over and over again badly? And then I just couldn't figure it out. And then I was like, oh, because then they started playing scales, and I was like, okay. Well,
you hope that it's lessons and not just some weird kink.
Yeah. Well, I certainly hope that now. Ooh. Yeah, ragtime kink. That's bizarre.
Get on the penny farthing for me, baby. You know what people do in the privacy of their own homes that you can hear in your own home is that's America.
A miracle of modern living. Yeah.
I could never once I moved out of apartments and bought this house that's far enough away from everyone that I can't hear other people. Yeah. I'm like, I just couldn't do it again.
I totally understand. I mean, that's how they get you, right? Is that you suddenly get like a driveway and a disposal and a dishwasher, and suddenly you're like, oh no, I can never live without these again.
Yeah.
These are this is my life now. We're lucky in that we're on the end, so it's only these one set of neighbors.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not like, I mean, seeing as when we are recording, I will say it's not Alston.
Right.
We're doing better. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, for people that don't know, we're recording this sort of around Alston Christmas as well, which is a thing I've discussed on the show before here, but it happens twice a year, like regular Christmas. And it's when the college kids either move in or out of apartments, and then there's just like the streets are lined with things they've discarded.
Yes. Literally, everybody's like, I don't feel like taking that with me. I'll just leave it right here.
Yeah. Like, I don't need a Dragon Slayer arcade cabinet that's filled with bed bugs.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We were, never mind. We don't need to go down the bed bug.
No.
Let's just leave that be. No one needs to hear about
Let's save the bed bugs for the crescendo. So when I started doing the show, you picked a TV guide here from September 19th to the 25th, 1987.
Yeah.
This has Brooke Shields on the cover, the lovely Brooke Shields.
Mm-hmm.
And it has an odd, there's basically like an editorial in here.
Yeah, I let me put it this way. When I first opened the PDF here of the TV guide, I was like, this is incredibly promising. I can't wait to find out where this is going to go. If you want to share the headline that makes
it says, "Why not Brooke Shields for Miss America?" Which, first of all, is grammatically incorrect in that it's a question, but it has an exclamation point instead of a question mark in the title.
Oh, that's a good point.
Which is weird. So I don't even know, like, why not Brooke Shields for Miss America? Like, I don't know.
It's funny now that you mention that literally every headline on this cover has pretty questionable grammar.
Yeah. Because they do questions. Like, the first thing is TV news too tough or too easy on Israel?
Yeah. Which that actually, I was like, oh, TV Guide really going for it there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Written by Wolf Blitzer.
Yes. Yeah. They actually had really good articles and a lot of TV Guide. Like, I legitimately read it for the articles and I completely ignore the nudity. But this was an observer's plea for better standards. So this was after Vanessa Williams was stripped, no pun intended, of her crown, I think in 84, 85.
Right.
And so there was this weird sort of conservative thing of like, we need to have people we've vetted that we know are like good, wholesome people. And since Brooke Shields was a teen model,
right.
I guess this guy is like, yeah, she's okay.
Right. She's the model of wholesomeness that 1987 demands, apparently.
She's the Miss America we all want. Yeah. It's a very weird take.
Yeah. Well, I will say one of the things further on down the TV Guide, it is amazing to me to realize just how Reagan's America really is when you get to some of the TV specials that we're on.
Oh, yeah.
And, educational given our current circumstances and whatever, be like, oh, wow. Oh, you couldn't write any of this today. And also produce a 2-hour TV special about it. Wow.
Oh yeah. It's crazy. Like sometimes I'll be listening to like my old punk rock records and I'm like, all right, come on guys with your Reagan dystopia. And then sometimes I'll flip through a thing here and I'm like, oh no, they're actually toning it down a little bit.
Yeah, no, they had a point. Yeah, they were very legit.
Because before we get to the listings here, I always mention that there's always a cornucopia of cigarette ads, and no two ads are ever the same or repeated again. And this I've actually heard of this cigarette, Virginia Slims, which they appear to be marketing towards women who ride their bicycle to their job as a painter.
Oh yeah. Oh, that makes way more sense. I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all, but yes, it is. That is exactly what that is about. A painter who, of course, paints in saddle shoes for some reason.
Exactly. And has clearly seen something hilarious. But their whole angle is it's the lightest of Slims because it only has 6 milligrams of tar.
Wow. Yeah. The things that they chose to be like, hey, guess what? Limited tar here in this one.
Yeah, sure, there's tar, but it's not as much as other things. Like if you smoked a bucket of tar.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's funny. Also in the ad above it, like the Merit Ultralights lists the tar in quotes. They're like, tar, the idea of tar.
Like it's an acronym. Like it stands for tobacco, arsenic, and cancer. Right. Or I did that wrong. There's not a C in that. Yeah, I can't spell. Then there's an article about Miami Vice here where Miami Vice sort of peaked, I think, in like 84, 85. And people forget that show went on till I think 92.
Oh, wow.
Like Nirvana killed Miami Vice as well as Pop Rock. Like those are the two things when the 80s totally ended. But they were a little long in the tooth here by 87 and they were trying a lot of stunts. And so this article is about like what we're going to see in the 1987-88 season, which includes Brian Dennehy playing a TV evangelist named Bill Bob Proverb.
Wow.
Which
really going hard on that one.
Yeah, like they were like no subtlety there. They're just like, Bill Bob Proverb. Yeah, I don't know. We'll come up with the real name later.
Right, exactly. This is our placeholder. Then someone's like, wait, you took it? Yeah. Give me that script back.
Then
his outfit is bizarre also. Thing.
He's wearing what I would describe as
it reminds me of some like very low budget culty sci-fi movie.
It's very Moonies. It's like if you combine silk pajamas with a chef's jacket.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Nailed it. Yeah.
Or if a baked potato wore his own chef's jacket.
Yeah, with French cuffs for some reason.
Of course, you gotta have French cuffs. You're not an evangelical preacher unless you have French cuffs. And then I only mention it because I've had him on the show. There's an article in here about Ron Perlman, who was starring in Beauty and the Beast. And this is the first in a series of articles where we basically got the same article every year for about 4 years while the show was on, where, hey, that guy who's ugly on the show, here's what he looks like without the makeup.
Sure.
Does he?
Right. I was actually, the thing about that article that struck me was Linda Hamilton's eyeshadow.
Oh, yeah.
As I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. And I have to say, just going through this TV guide, absolute delight. Like, just completely remembering, like, you know, what the actual things looked like things that people sold or whatever. Like, oh, yeah, that was actually a thing. Like, even just right above it, the ad for the cigarette stained toothpaste, Topol or whatever. Which, like, the tagline, coffee, tea, wine, and tobacco stains on teeth just aren't your style. But you're not going to stop consuming any of that because consuming is your thing, man. Like, yeah, and you're gonna use a toothpaste named after the star of Fiddler on the Roof. Yeah. While wearing a pillowcase on your head. Yes. This is very 80s. Like, people complain when they're like, if something's set in the 80s, I'm like, no, some things did look exactly like that. And again, I always have to mention him when he pops up in the soaps section. All My Children here has, not All My Children. Which thing is it? The eye patch guy. Where is he here? Oh yeah. I don't even know what article this is. Mary Beth Evans. Yes. Jack Devereaux, who has Steve Patch Johnson, played by Stephen Nichols, below right. And it's literally a soap opera with a guy with an eye patch named Patch. And I have to remind myself that was a thing. It's weird to just try and remember that, like, because there were so few channels and, you know, the whole idea of, like, will it play in Peoria? Like, people really went for, like, simple. Do not do any thinking while you eat this sugar we've got for you. And it was, that I think was my overwhelming takeaway. That, and I could completely understand why you would immediately collect every single one of these that ever happened. It is funny, right? Like, because there's a lot of people who are like, well, I didn't watch that much TV. And then they'll start flipping through one and they're like, my God, yes, I did. And the joke I used to make before I did the show about why I had all these was for alibis. But in reality, it is kind of cool to be able to look back and even remember, like, oh, I know exactly where I was and what I was doing at this exact date and time, and that's really strange. Yeah, there's some stuff in here that I actively remember watching, like in my parents' little, you know, den situation. So. Did you grow up in the Boston area? I did. Yeah, I grew up in Milton. Okay. Which is no affiliation to the men's clothing wear store. No, although we did visit that also at the South Shore Plaza. You went from Milton's to Milton's. Yeah, quite a bit. And that's where it was. The SSP. Stop at Tom McCann. Yeah. I met oh my God, why am I forgetting? Todd Oldham at the South Shore Plaza when I was in high school. Oh, and I made my high school girlfriend go with me to meet Todd Oldham, which made her very suspicious. Sure. But before we get to the Saturday night here, because this is the fall and they're launching the Saturday morning cartoons, there is a fantastic ad in here for CBS's Saturday morning lineup. It's when they had the campaign Gonna Party, and it went, Gonna Party here on CBS. Oh, wow. I don't think I remember that one. That's amazing. And they have a couple new shows. They have Hello Kitty's Furry Tale Theater, Mighty Mouse, The New Adventures, which is actually a sort of historic show, because that show is the first show that John Krusfelewski, who is a monster but created Ren and Stimpy, worked on with all the guys who did Animaniacs and Batman the Animated Series. Like, they all worked on this show. So it grew these shows out of it. Muppet Babies, Pee-wee's Playhouse, Popeye and Son. Little Beloved, Teen Wolf, Story Break, and Kid Video. So, I mean, I was a CBS Saturday morning guy. I was pretty loyal to that network. Yeah. I mean, I certainly watched the hell out of Muppet Babies quite a bit and Pee-wee's Playhouse. I confess having zero memory of Popeye and Son. In fact, if I was like in a trivia situation and someone said Popeye has a son, I'd be like, no. There was a weird trend of cartoons with and Son. There was, we had Captain Caveman and Son, Pink Panther and Sons, Popeye and Son. It was very weird. It was very weird. The strange thing.
And this is Boston edition, so before we get to the prime time here, there's a wonderful ad on page 31 for a day with an E at the end at the King Richard's Fair.
Oh, yes, that's amazing. Brought to you by Shaw's.
Shaw's and Coca-Cola Classic. I've never been to the King Richard's Fair. Have you ever gone?
I haven't, actually. I was in a weird twist as a child who played Dungeons and Dragons. I somehow never had an interest in Ren fairs or anything like that.
Yeah.
You would think that I would have gone, but the closest I ever came was going to the place with the, warm beer and the chicken leg or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Medieval Times.
That's the one. Yeah.
The restaurant. The restaurant next to the Pine Street Inn, I think.
Yep. Now it's some sort of fancy condo like everything.
Yes, you live in a Ren Fair with beer. Yeah, for some reason it always seemed like I never went to the Ren Fair. I never went to Sturbridge Village. Like anything where people pretended to be from a different time really bothered me.
Yeah. I think we went to like Plymouth Plantation for school, but that was it.
That was weird. Do other states have that kind of thing?
I feel like they must, but like maybe only if you were in, an original 13 colony kind of state situation. Like you're not going to go, like, what's the history in Florida?
Yeah, you don't go to like Ponce de Leon's Fountain of Youth.
Right. Yeah. And in California, it's just, it's a totally different thing. But it is a weird, I'm sure that these things must exist on some level, but it is, having grown up where the history is, so to speak. I think we had to go to Plymouth Plantation a couple times. If
listeners want to tell me about these things, but these are literally like you would go to Plymouth Plantation and they pretend like it's, I don't even know the year. I guess it'd be like 15 something or 16 something. Whenever that is. 1492 was Columbus, but then the Pilgrims were 16.
I think it's 16 something. But that's those 100 years are as close as I'm getting.
Yes,
despite having been made to go a couple times.
And they will pretend that it is that time. So if you're like, hey, excuse me, where's the cell phone charging station? I don't know if people ask that. I haven't been out of my house. They'll be like, what are you talking about, spaceman? Like it's like weird.
Which is like their only thing, kind of. Like really their only trick is like they have like a set performance that they do, which is like, here's me churning butter. And then their entire rest of their gig is not knowing what you're talking about.
You know what? That's a pretty good gig, actually.
I do feel like I once met someone who worked there, but I have no good stories to go with it. I just have a dim memory of being like, tell me everything about it, but it was probably in a bar, so who knows?
Now I'm wondering if they would hire you to DJ, but you can only play songs from the 1600s.
Yeah, you get to DJ. Here's a lute.
Yes.
What? Yeah.
This one goes out to the blacksmith. So let's dive in. Saturday night, 8 o'clock. What'd you do?
Hold on, let me grab my notes here.
I do want to mention while you're looking, this week is outstanding. Like there are some amazing, crazy shows that debut.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize. This is the start of so many seasons and whatever. It's like the kickoff for whatever season of whatever shows. It was very exciting to go through and be like, oh yeah. All right, Saturday 8 o'clock. Where is my listing? I think what I actually I went through in order. There was a thing called Once a Hero, actually, that seems like I would definitely not have watched it then. But I would probably look at it now because it was kind of fascinating. I'm trying to scroll and find the description. Right. Comic book hero Captain Justice will fade away unless he can step into the real world where he has no superpowers and make his readers remember him. This sounds amazing.
Oh, yeah. This seems ripe for a reboot.
Yeah. That in the opener, the Crimson Crusader takes on father and son extortionists is maybe a little bit of a down thing. But like Robert Forster and like, that's a pretty weird idea for a show in the first place. So now I would just sit there and watch like one of those. But
yeah, he interacts with the guy who created him. It's this super weird meta thing. It only lasts about 4 episodes. It was way too ahead of its time. It's funny because we'll get comic book nerdy for a moment here, but in 87, Grant Morrison was doing a similar thing with Animal Man at DC Comics, where Animal Man realized he was in a comic and he actually interacted with Grant Morrison as the writer of the comic, and it became this very strange sort of commentary on the nature of stories and characters and their existence and all this kind of weird fourth wall stuff.
Yeah.
Which this show, although not as heady as that, was doing the same exact thing. And I think most people were used to, like, they wanted Batman 66 when they saw superheroes on TV.
Sure.
This is pre-Batman 89. And they were just like, this is dumb. I hate this. And it got completely lambasted.
Yeah,
I think is the word I want to use. But it's not amazing. I'll say that. But it is an interesting relic, and I recommend watching it. People have uploaded most of the episodes to YouTube.
Yeah, I would. I always forget that like all of television is somewhere on YouTube at this point, more or less. But yeah, I would. I'm in fact going to look up at least one of those episodes just to see how bonkers it is. Also, not to flip around right at the start, but like realistically, once I realized that was terrible, Great American Quiz Show had a lot of potential, as did the Great Space Race, which is probably what I'd watch as a grown-up.
Not the Great Space Coaster.
That was, I actually, as I was reading it, was like, oh.
This was PBS. This is technology's role in explaining the origins of matter in the universe, including pulsars, black holes, supernovas, and the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. Seems like it's pretty good TV.
It's probably pretty interesting. Yeah. And then at 9, the Last Starfighter's on, so you could make that into like a kind of a combo.
Right, exactly. Unsurprisingly, that is exactly where I went at 9 o'clock, was the Last Starfighter. Just, there's no way I wouldn't have watched that in that moment, and probably would even now. I was fascinated by Centauri when I was a kid.
Yes.
Because it seemed like so... Yeah, just the entire idea of being able to play a video game and then be strangely recruited by aliens, just 100% up my alley. Gita. That's what the woman says when he gets to Centauri, and then they give him that like thing on his shirt that translates for him. Oh yeah, that's right. I remember also the like, what is it? Is that the one with the death blossom? Is that the final weapon that they have?
Yes.
Yeah, where they like basically just spins around a lot and shoots people.
Yeah, he's in like he's basically in Nikki Sixx's drum rig from 1987. Except it destroys planets. Which maybe Nikki Sixx could do.
I mean, given all the appropriate wattage, sure, why not? I think I might have even seen that in the theater. I don't even know.
84. It was kind of a flop. But really got a good cult audience later. This is actually the network television premiere. It was funny when I scanned this issue for you. The weirdest thing. So Catherine Mary Stewart's a friend, and I sent her that ad. I was like, I don't know if you keep like a scrapbook or anything, but here's the ad for the network television premiere. And she's like, oh my God, I've never seen this. I'm sending it to Lance. And then I was on like an email thread with her and Lance. Lance Guest, who stars in this movie, the two of them, and they were like, whoa, cool. And I was like, what a weird adulthood I've made for myself.
Yeah, that is very strange.
My favorite thing about the listing is after the whole credits for the movie, it says, next week, the crime drama Jake and the Fatman premieres at this hour.
So I wasn't that. There's a few of those where they're like, we're showing you this now, but then we're going to do another. We're later going to switch to something entirely different, and I guess that makes sense but yeah. Also, that was the other thing to me. Like a lot of these shows that I would have told you were airing in more of the 80s are clearly premiering now, even though I feel like I would have told you that they were on TV in like 1983.
Oh yeah,
and but they've actually been on forever, I guess. There's
also like a show they're really promoting here on NBC called Mama's Boy, which I literally don't even remember.
No, I do not.
The debut, Bruce Waltz is Jake McClaskey, a Manhattan newspaper columnist who shares his living quarters with his mother, played by Nancy Walker, who people know as Rhoda's mother, and who was in was it Palmolive ads?
Yes.
It was a Palmolive.
Bounty?
Bounty. It was Bounty. In the opener, Jake lies about the arrangement when he's nominated for Manhattan Magazine's Bachelor of the Year and is attracted to the woman who interviews him. Then they say the weirdest thing. This occasional series is one of NBC's quote-unquote designated hitters.
Interesting.
So as a baseball guy... And I am not. Can you explain to me what they mean by that? Because I think I know what a designated hitter is, but I don't see how that applies here.
I mean, it seems clear that possibly nobody ever had to pitch this show. They just actually I guess it's something that they stick in from time to time. It doesn't really map super well, to be honest. No. Though the cast is fascinating also.
Dan Hedaya?
Yeah. James Cromwell. I mean, it's just like... It seems like it's one of those things that they probably made like half a season of and then just kind of kept in the can in case anything else went wrong as like a replacement. But I don't remember it at all either. And I likewise definitely watched plenty of Oh, I see. That's the ad for the same show.
Yeah.
I only can tell
like a half-page ad.
in both. He doesn't actually look like the same person in both hats, but
this show strikes me as something they filmed in 1983.
Yeah.
Like in a case of emergency break glass show.
Right. They never actually ran it, and they're like, well, we do have this. Here, go for that. That'll be great.
They'll threaten people with it. If you don't get this done, we're going to air Mama's Boy. No.
We got 3 more of them. Watch it. Don't think I'm out.
And then Miss America pageant is on at 10 o'clock that night that I realize is outside of the purview here. Hosted by Kathy Lee Gifford. And she does a number of songs, which they tell us the musical highlights. They do Play in the Sunshine, Big Noise from Winnetaka.
Yeah. I'm not going to disagree with you on that one. Yeah.
The Whitney Houston hit, I Want to Dance with Somebody Who Loves Me, sung by Kathy Lee Gifford.
Yeah. Well, but interestingly, there are other people singing it with her, apparently. One of whom has the last name Cash. Oh, no, it's the 1986 winner. I was in my head pretending it was Johnny Cash, which would have been an amazing thing to watch. But
I think we all were. Yeah, the 1986 Miss America, Kaylee Cash, who, we all know her singing career went very well.
Yeah, not so much. Honorable mention somewhere in here, 8:30, 227.
Yes.
Yeah, that is an episode I might remember even. But the trip to buy toys for hospitalized children becomes a frightening ordeal when Mary Sandra and Wee Herman are bound and locked up by a robber. I was like, oh, yeah.
That is an amazing episode of that show.
Yeah.
The robber is played, I believe, by the actor who played Bernie on Weekend at Bernie's. And I rewatched that episode recently because every episode of 227, all the seasons are now streaming on Prime.
Great.
Super fun show. Great to watch. Actually, side note, I'm friendly with Barry Sobel, who was in the later seasons as Dylan McMillan. And I used to tape trade, and I would get these tapes, and I was like, oh, hey, Barry, I got an episode of Friday Night Videos that you hosted. And he goes, oh, is the one with me and Jason Bateman? And I go, no, it's the one with you and Shoney Jackson. And he goes, oh. Stoney Jackson, who was his co-star in 227.
Right.
But Pee Wee Herman's playing himself.
Apparently.
Which is
weird. Or no, wait, you've seen it. Yes, he does play himself.
He plays himself. They get locked up in the storage room. I actually did a whole thing earlier in the year where around Christmas time where I went through and identified all the toys.
Wow. In the
shop, which is actually really fun. But it's weird that Paul Reubens was on it because he was doing Pee-wee's Playhouse on CBS, and this is an NBC show.
Oh, good point. Right.
Like, what is he doing in this episode? I've never been able to figure it out.
Apparently he was available that week. It's funny you touch on the thing of people being like bound to. We'll come to it later. There's a moment where I was overwhelmed by memory of realizing that like the studio system of Hollywood and the TV networks were not radically different like strategies.
Oh no.
Like I'd completely forgotten that like I knew that they would have episodes where, special guest never mind special guest Pee Wee Herman makes no sense, but I completely had forgotten exactly how much intermingling there was between series and guest stars and stuff like that. And just going through this whole the whole TV guide, I was just like, oh man, TV was so fun.
Yeah, that's how you cross promote. It was like there was no other way to get people to watch some things unless you would do this sort of weird cross promotion. Yeah. Sunday, before we get to primetime, I do want to mention again that the debut at 11:30 a.m. on WLVI 56 is the new Monkees.
The new Monkees?
Which I loved. It was more influenced by the young ones than by the original Monkees show.
Is it still the Monkees?
It's a brand new crew. It has no relation to the Monkees, although Mickey Dolenz did direct a few episodes later. They put out one album. It's actually really good. It's this great power pop album from 1987 that is sort of a lost gem of that genre. They had a single called What I Want I really think is great. And then they re-released it as a Christmas song called What I Want for Christmas. Which is
not
great. But it's a pretty interesting show. The only guy who really went on to do anything musically is Marty Ross, who is still a musician and a producer. The other guys kind of quit after this, but this show got shit on.
Yeah.
So much.
Huh. I never even knew it existed, but now I'm definitely going to go find that song, if not album.
It's a good album, and the show is fun. It's very surreal and weird. It's I never use this word, but trippy.
Sure, I could see that. I could see how that would be. That's how they managed to make the connection a little bit.
We also have the debut, because this is all the first run syndication stuff. Sundays at 4:00 on Channel 5. She's the Sherriff. With Suzanne Summers as the top cop, because in 1987, a high concept show was that a woman was a sheriff.
Yep. Oh, there's your new Monkees. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a cool looking ad. I mean, it's very 1987.
Yes. Yeah, all the weird. I don't even know what you call that. Chintzy? What is that background that it says to me Trapper Keeper, but that's all I really have with it.
It's very Trapper Keeper. It's like sort of that like 50s by way of the 80s. Like,
yeah.
It's very
Wait, was it produced by Coca-Cola?
It was. So that's the weird thing. Coca-Cola, I think they bought Columbia TriStar Pictures, and for 1 year they tried to become a production company, and I think this is the only thing they ever actually made.
Wow. That's bonkers.
Produced.
I'm definitely going to find this. This is amazing.
It's pretty cool. I've also had Bess Mata on the show, who was in it, who's also in Terminator, and she played like this so they never leave their house. They're like trapped in this weird magical house that just has like endless doors and rooms, and there's a diner in the house, and she's this waitress for it's real weird.
Yeah.
In the new
strange to me how so many of these shows, like you'd have one that's She's the Sheriff, where like clearly that's the beginning and the end of the plot. But then there'd always be these people who manage to get something really weird made, as long as they manage to wrap it in no, it's the new Monkees.
Yes.
And then it's suddenly like a weird psychological horror picture, except it's comedy.
Yes.
Like yeah.
Like, oh yeah, we don't know what that is. No, guys, but it's also the Monkees.
Yeah.
Oh, you got the Monkees? Well, it's the new Monkees.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like the Monkees meets Hellraiser. Oh, sure.
Yeah. They're trapped in purgatory. And then also the new Gidget premieres that weekend at 6:30.
I saw that.
So we get all the new 60s shows.
Yeah.
Which is very strange.
Yeah.
And oddly, so speaking of the new Gidget, I've had Karen Richmond on, who played Gidget on that show, but the guy who did all the music for the new Gidget also did all the music for Friday the 13th, part 6 and 7, and the television series.
Oh, wild. That must be... I love people's resumes, man. I love how you just get people who have that bizarre history where you're like, oh, where did you start? Well, I got my break on the new Gidget.
Yes.
Now, horror.
Yes.
Nothing but horror.
That's my specialty.
Yeah.
Again, it's before the 8:00 hour, but I want to mention there's two amazing things on at 7:00. We have an episode of Our House, which, if you remember, was kind of a huge show that no one ever remembers.
Yeah, well, to be honest, so I agree with you that I don't remember it, except that kid hugging the tree. I'm like, I know that. That guy was in a thing. Tell me about Our House. What was the deal with that?
It was Wilfred Brimley plays the father of a divorce. I forget if she was a widower or a divorcee, and she moves back in with him with her kids. One was played by Shannon Doherty, who later went on to Beverly Hills 90210. Sure. And the son, who's played by Chad Allen, who was in everything. If you don't know Chad Allen, Google him, you'll be like, oh yeah, that blonde kid from everything.
Yes. No, that must be why I recognize him specifically. And yeah, but I remember this show. I think I watched it. I mean, Wilfred Brimley being the dad suddenly rings a loud bell.
It was enormous for about a year.
Or not the dad, but the grandfather.
The grandfather, the father figure.
Yes.
As George Michael would call it. And actually that song's about Wilfred Brimley in Our House. No, I want to see Wilfred Brimley perform George Michael's father figure. Both men are dead.
Like some new Twitter trend. That'll be the new line. Like, it's not the Wilfred Brimley line. It's the being Wilfred Brimley and having George Michael write a song about you line.
Yes, yes. And this is, in the aftermath of an earthquake, Jessie is desperate to find her family. So this is the second of a two-parter. There's Gus, the baby, and a banker are trapped in an elevator.
Oh, man.
This is David, Chad Allen, and his class take refuge in a church, unaware of the dangers within.
Another fine sign that television gets made in California is they're like, what do you want to do? Earthquake episode? Sounds good. Like, Everyone else is like, I don't even know what an earthquake is like, but sure.
What are we afraid of? Every waking hour of the day.
Right.
Earthquakes. Right. And then 21 Jump Street on tonight. This is still, it had just premiered. We get Johnny Depp, huge new season, sneak preview tonight. And it says, desperate mother cries, he stole my baby. Babyface cops tackle another case out of today's headlines.
Like, how did someone write those two things next to each other? He stole my baby and babyface cops. Like, it's fine. Those are the things about reading this that I'm like, what were you doing? Like, it's like a tabloid headline for he stole my baby, like as if Johnny Depp was Bigfoot or something. But then right out of it, you get the cast all looking attractive and doing their smoldery faces. Meanwhile, Johnny Depp is just looking totally the other direction, being a babyface cop for a full page of face.
Oh, yeah. That's a rip it out and put it up in your locker, which is hilarious because I bet there were teenage girls with that in their locker, but then it says he stole my baby.
Right. Which is, yeah. Even stranger. And this was also oh, no, wait. Am I ahead of myself? This is when, oh, no, wait. Well, I guess it is 8 o'clock. DuckTales. Yes. Preview, not even the launch of DuckTales, just a hey, did you know that this existed?
So they used to launch cartoons in primetime.
Huh.
I don't know why. It was a phenomenon they would do for a couple decades on the networks. And DuckTales was actually a huge deal because Disney had almost gone out of business. That sounds silly to say, but Disney almost shuttered their animation studio 2 times in the late 70s and in the mid 80s. They had an enormous flop. So the Black Cauldron almost bankrupted the studio. They were like, we're not going to do animation anymore. Don Bluth had quit. He had gone on and done The Land Before Time on his own and American Tail. And so Disney was like, we're screwed.
Right.
We got nothing. So,
Don Bluth is going to just knock us off.
Yep. Don Bluth. The final straw was when Don Bluth killed us. And they had tried to do live action movies that were for older kids, like The Black Hole and Something Wicked This Way Come. It was just, nothing was working. And so literally as a last ditch effort, they were like, let's do original animated programs for television. And so they launched DuckTales as like if this doesn't work, we're dead. But hey, we can't get worse. And it saved Disney. It literally was such a hit, and they built this whole afternoon around it that they were now able to have an animation studio again, and they made The Little Mermaid, and then on and on and on. But it's so weird that DuckTales did that.
Literally the cash vault that they were hoping to swim in. Yes. They originally created here. I mean, I am exactly the right age to have watched so many episodes of DuckTales that I couldn't even pick a specific one out for you. I mean, maybe that's because they had very similar plots from point to point, but also like, I think it was that was something I think it was very quick to be in syndication, like after school. Is that
5 days a week? It was a strip show, so it was on. Not that it involved nudity, but strip show is usually 65 episodes, so it aired.
And they don't wear pants either. So
that's true. But they didn't start with pants. Like it'd be great if they were like goodbye.
That's awful.
Which was extra weird because I think Scrooge McDuck wore a kilt.
Yeah,
so
he did.
That sort of, because you could argue like, oh, they don't have pants in their world. There's, but then you're like, well, hold on.
Yeah. But they do all have hats.
That's true. Maybe, I'm not going to go there, but maybe that's where their genitals are. That's why they wear hats. I don't know anthropomorphic duck anatomy.
I mean, it's a complicated thing. It's are those both Scrooge? Yeah, they are. Okay, you can tell it's Scrooge because he's got the little glasses on his bill.
Yes.
Yeah. I suppose really there's just only so many ways you can make a cartoon duck look different from a cartoon duck.
That's true, especially for those of us who are duck racists.
Mm-hmm.
It'll quack you up laughing. Man, someone got paid to write that.
That's the thing. So many of these things, like professional people who also made 80s TV money to do this.
Oh, yeah.
Like, huge amounts of money. You're like, oh, quack you up laughing. That's great. Print it.
Yep. Go home. We're done.
Good work.
Let's go swim in our own pools of money.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So 8 o'clock, what'd you do?
Well, I made a note about the DuckTales preview because that was probably a thing. But the Emmy Awards being on at 8 seems like something I would have at least watched some of, because this is exactly the time when I was very into television, and basically it's a show with everyone on it. So that's perfect for me.
It is. And this is the year Jackie Gleason died. So there's actually a big tribute to Jackie Gleason. There's a whole thing.
Wow. I might have even watched this then. Huh. There was the Honeymooners was very big in my house as a child. So that actually clicks a little bit. But somewhere in here, and I'm not going to find it quickly scrolling around, but I made a note of it, that one of the things that they plug super hard about this particular episode is that the new producer says, quote, no rigid time limit on acceptance speeches.
Yes.
Like, that's the new vision that he's bringing to all of this. Like, something about the presenter hosts being comedians, which seems like if that was the innovation, then congratulations, you did it. But that notwithstanding, just that anyone would be more compelled to watch this by saying, no, we're just going to let them talk forever. Like, I can't imagine it.
No, and then they also say no song and dance style production numbers. We're going to use, quote, presenter hosts with
That's
comedy, quote, the essential ingredient. Which sounds
it's like they know
awful.
that the shows are boring, but they just haven't quite figured out where the hook is yet.
Yeah, it really, it almost sounds like the producer is like a substitute teacher.
Yep.
Who's decided he's going to make learning fun.
Yep.
But
100%.
never works. Did you always, when you're DJing at a game, did you always wish there was a player with the last name Duck so you could play the DuckTales theme?
Oh, that one would have been fantastic. It never occurred to me in that case. One of the weird things about doing the music for, all the different sports is that it's more like you're just sort of like waiting for things to wash over you, and then you see something and go, aha. If it's a thing that's inherent to the sport, then you can kind of plan for it, because you're like, someday this ridiculous thing will happen and I'm ready. But for players, it took me like 10 years to figure out that it made a lot of sense to check the roster on the visiting team for things like that. Just because it never, I was doing other stuff and it worked out, but I would absolutely do that in this case. I did play for the Patriots when, I'm going to forget this guy's first name, but they had a guy named Hogan. And I did, when he scored his first touchdown, play the Hogan's Heroes theme at Gillette Stadium.
Very nice.
To the incredible delight of the Gillette Stadium demographic, obviously. All of whom definitely had watched Hogan's Heroes in its entirety. I watched a ton of it too.
Oh yeah. That stuff's great. Like I'm hearing in my head a whole stadium doing the DuckTales. Woo!
Yes. No, that's clearly what it's for. The whole point of doing the thing that really brings me joy from it, not to detour a little, but is getting people to sing along in large groups with whatever. And I think probably DuckTales is the approach. Given how old I am, that means that everybody in the world is ready to woo-woo at DuckTales if that actually happened.
We'll make it happen. I mentioned TV theme songs are almost like a performance-enhancing drug for that sort of thing, too, because everybody knows those songs.
Yeah. Part of the big thing about it is just, being able to find something that's familiar to people. And TV theme songs and also movie soundtracks where they have, obviously probably everybody plays songs from the Caddyshack soundtrack because they're right there and available to you. But it is getting people to sing along. And if you can start with something that everyone knows, I have great thanks to to Wayne's World, I think, for the current generation of a thing I did. All of this is a couple of years ago, obviously, because fans at sports games was not a thing for a little while, which is an absolute nightmare. But when the Bruins are losing and you can take 6 minutes of the end of the intermission and get the entire place to sing basically all of Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
It's beautiful because they start to sing and it's definitely 1 in every 15 people who start singing it. And then his buddy is oh yeah, is this a real life? And it goes and as they start to hear each other, they all start to just sing. It's remarkably beautiful for a thing that is just a bunch of people basically hammered being yeah, and then they all headbang together. It's wonderful. So.
It's Freddie Mercury's vision of the future. It's the world he wanted.
That is one of the things about it that I'm always it's nice. Everybody just decided to sing this song they all know for a minute.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Good.
no, it is weird we have
We're
those
all at
connecting
peace
moments.
for a hot second.
I'd be remiss if I did not mention one of my favorite Boston-based shows is on 8 o'clock here, Spenser for Hire.
Oh yeah.
This is a pretty good episode. This is season 2 of the show. First episode of the first season has a big scene at a Celtics game with Chuck Connors, who played on the Celtics, in the crowd, as he plays a mob boss called King Powers.
Wow.
But I really love that show, and it holds up well. And I've said it on the show before, but as a kid, I would often go into Boston and watch them film Spenser for Hire.
Yeah,
it's very exciting.
So my dad worked in a building basically next to the State House. So Spenser for Hire was like the building that I think was their courthouse was the one across the street, and all the time that would happen. And and getting to watch TV like filmed live also is like a perfect thing for kids because like it's nothing forever. And then the people you're waiting to watch walk out of the building.
Yep.
And then it's over and you're like, cool.
And then they spend an hour setting it up and doing it again.
Right. Yeah. Like, okay, back to one. And you're like, oh.
And they make that look exciting. How does that work?
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember it was Spenser for Hire in those years would always be this sort of mixture of things people bragged about and complained about. So they'd be like, well, I was stuck in traffic because fucking Spenser for Hire had the street blocked off. He was replaced.
I don't even like that show anymore. Come on.
Come on. I was late for dinner because fucking Spenser is doing a chase scene.
I read all those books, actually. That was like, I think I weirdly I think we were assigned one in some class or something. Some very weird English teacher assigned us a Spenser book.
They're pretty good.
They are pretty good. I mean, like, I don't have anything really bad to say about them. I haven't read them since then, but it was a magical thing to have read a couple of them and then discover it was a TV show in Boston. Then be like, Robert, you're like, all these things are happening. Yeah.
Have you ever been to Carl's Sausage Kitchen?
I can't say no.
So Carl's Sausage Kitchen was sort of you grew up South Shore.
The dogs are excited for
dogs are excited for sausages. I didn't say sausages, but they moved further up. But on Route 1, there were this sort of big sign, Carl's Sausage Kitchen, and it was like this was there forever. And they now have, well, I don't know if it's still around, but they have like a cafe you can eat in. And one of the Spenser books, like the big scene in the book takes place at Carl's Sausage Kitchen.
Oh, wild. That's cool.
And they have that book on the wall in a frame, and it's just like really
that's nice.
Weird. The Highwaymen is also on that night with Sam Jones and Wings Hauser, and it's the explosive 2-hour movie premiere of a new breed of lawman, a Texas road warrior. And this is a ripoff of Mad Max that they made.
Okay, good. Yeah. Keep going. Sorry.
So they have basically a Mack truck that also has a helicopter in it, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So this is driving a souped-up big rig fitted with a futuristic gadget. The Highwayman, played by Sam Jones, is an unorthodox federal lawman in pursuit of a crooked wheeler dealer, played by G. Gordon Liddy.
Wow.
And the cast of this is amazing. So we got Jimmy Smits in it, Wings Hauser, Lyle Alzado, Jennifer Runyon, who just came off Charles in Charge, and playing a preacher, Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Wow.
And this show went to series, and Sam Jones's like a sidekick on the show was Australian rugby player Jocko, who you may remember from the Energizer ads, who went, Energizer, oi!
Oh, yeah. I do remember that. That is your legacy, sir.
Yes. He was very popular for 1 year and got on this TV show with Sam Jones.
Oh, man. I absolutely chose wrong in this case. I think I was watching the premiere of My Two Dads.
Also a decent show.
I mean, I remember it was entirely a nostalgia pick. I was like, oh, yeah, I remember this show. And now I'm like, oh.
It's a fun show and a rare show where the star of the show sings the theme song.
Oh.
Greg Evigan sings, You Can Count on Me.
Yeah, I remember the theme. I didn't know he sang it.
That's show, Land of the Lost theme song is sung by Wesley, the teenage son.
Cool.
Alan
Thicke never actually sang any of his own themes, right?
No.
It's like Growing Pains is actually somebody else.
Yep. Facts of Life he never sang. Different Strokes he didn't sing.
Yeah.
He was just a Svengali behind the scenes.
Well, no, he does sing something, but it's just not a show he was in. I can't remember what though. Oh, it's they're game shows. Like Wizard of Odds or something like that. I believe he sings.
Do you have a favorite TV theme song of all time?
Oh God. Well, on some level, Cheers, I think probably resonates strongly, having watched every episode of that a billion times and being from here. But no, that is impossible to choose from my several hundred children.
It's tough.
I was lucky to I got a hold of you remember when that when the record label that Trent Reznor hated,
TVT Records,
which existed only to release compilations of television theme songs.
And I was one Nine Inch Nails record.
Yes, with a little smaller record inside of it. Was the comedy theater I worked at in Improv Asylum? They had all 7 volumes, like right at the start, and so I immediately ripped those. And so I have had just this ridiculous collection of TV theme songs forever. I couldn't even begin. I mean, there's so many amazing TV theme songs to play. I actually did a thing on the radio station now where I think I actually played a solid 45 minutes of TV theme songs once.
Perfect.
Just because we needed to like fill an hour, and I had played one already and everybody got excited. And I was like, oh, you want to see my favorite? So I have 45 favorites, or 45 to 50 of them. We'll go with Cheers because it's easy.
That is a good one. What
about you?
I'll accept that. Well, it depends. So like my favorite one to sing is probably like Perfect Strangers. Like if there was TV theme song karaoke, that's the one I really belt out. I actually do enjoy the Spenser for Hire theme, but my Mr. Belvedere is a fun one to sing. Probably the Misfits of Science is my favorite theme song.
Oh, I don't think I know that one.
It's really rocking. When I did my second comedy album, I commissioned this really talented kid, Nick Chambers, to write a theme, like an opening theme song for the record. Yeah. And I was just like, just rip off the Misfits of Science theme.
Like this. This is what I want.
And he did. And it's a really fun, weird theme, and it's great. I reckon the opening sequence that starts that show is just kind of cool. It goes together.
I do feel like I should mention in this breath that many times when I used to DJ like bar parties, like big blackout insanity things, the end of the night would often just play the Golden Girls theme as like the lights are coming up and be like, hey everybody, thanks for being a friend.
Stay safe.
This has been a great night. Get home. Yeah, get home safe.
I love you guys.
Yeah. So yes, the TV theme songs tonight is a hard intersection, and game show themes and everything else. It's crazy.
I mean, so Monday night, I'm a CBS Monday night person across the board, but I only say this because Kate and Allie Newhart Designing Women, those 3 shows all have excellent music at the beginning of their show. All instrumental, but those are some great stuff.
Mm-hmm. I actually, my honorable mention for Monday, Mr. Wizard at 7:30 is a thing I definitely would not have missed under any circumstances. Although it's funny, as a grown person, I think about that show and I'm like, I think that there were a lot fewer episodes than I think.
Oh yeah, they were modular, so they'd re-edit them into new episodes. And yeah, it was literally Don Herbert, who had been famous in the 50s, who is now like pushing 70 and is really short-tempered with a bunch of good-natured Canadian kids. Basically was that show. And when you rewatch it, he's like torturing some of them. Like there's one where he keeps making he shoves this kid's head down in a bucket of water because I guess he's trying to teach him about mass or something. But he's like, okay, Eugene, now get back under that water. Like, and this kid comes popping up like... It's great.
Oh God, that's fantastic. Let's see. Monday, what else did I have? Alf seems like something I would have watched in that moment. I actually have. Were you ever a person from Charlie's Kitchen? You ever go to that bar?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Good bird.
I have the Charlie's Kitchen Alf back here. That was up behind the TVs at some point. It went on a road trip with Moby once. It's a strange and unusual device. It's also was up under the ceiling of Charlie's forever, so it might be the most carcinogenic object I've ever been near, as it just all the cigarettes or whatever. But they were getting rid of it, and I was like, how can I let this thing go in the trash? And as a slightly older person, I probably should have let that go in the trash.
You need to put that in, like that's a hazmat suit thing, but I would have done the same thing. This is the second season premiere, a show that does not hold up well. Paul Fusco, who created Alf, is from, I believe, Worcester, a fairly unpleasant guy who really wanted to be the next Jim Henson and clearly was not. But man, that show was enormous.
Yeah. Oh, completely. I mean, and also I think probably being a kid at that age, it's like the perfect, it's to you, it is a Muppet on TV, even though it, like a cigar chomping Muppet kind of. And
he gets to be a jerk. Like he's a jerk, and it's like, man, I'd love to tell my version of Willie to, whatever he says to him.
Right. I was blown away by the ad for both Alf and Valerie's family.
Oh yes. They switch their bottoms of their bodies but like Sandy Duncan is definitely not wearing fishnet tights, so I don't know where those legs came from.
Oh yeah.
But it's like sexy Alf, and it's in hairy Sandy Duncan, which to you maybe sexy Sandy Duncan, I don't know, but it's a real weird thing there.
I remember this. So this was actually the premiere of Valerie's family, or of Valerie as Valerie's family, which is crazy because it's one of those weird TV moments I remember as a kid not understanding why this had taken place. But I watched Valerie a lot,
which is great.
And then, I really enjoyed it. And then this happened, and I was just sort of like, why? And like, clearly, had you been an adult at that time, it would have made a lot more sense. But I was just like, okay. And I just kept watching it, whatever.
Yeah, this is a sort of life-altering episode for me because it really devastated me. So they had shot the episode with Valerie and then reshot it without her. So I know someone who's in this episode that plays Jason Bateman's girlfriend in this episode, and she had to come back and do reshoots, and she's like, you never did that for a multicam sitcom. They never had you come back for reshoots. And so, which they didn't tell her why really. And then she saw the episode and she's like, oh, they killed Valerie. And when you watch the episode, it's about 2 or 3 minutes in before you realize what's going on. They literally have Jason Bateman say, things just haven't been the same since Mom died.
I feel like that's the origin of that's like a cultural touchstone at this point. Like,
Oh yeah. It was just brutal. I was so upset by that. It was very, very, very upsetting.
I feel like there's probably a joke in Arrested Development I will now get next time that I lazily rewatch it.
Probably.
You probably got a line just like that in the like, we're going to replace Chachi with whatever era of Arrested Development.
Things just haven't been the same since Scott Baio
whatever.
died.
Yeah.
There's also a really odd looking made for TV movie that they've put on with an interesting cast. If it's Tuesday, it still must be Belgium.
Yes. Also, this is the one I was talking about where I forgot that they basically did like, Yogi Bear's Laugh Olympics, except with real humans.
Yep.
And I mean, they had Battle of the Network Stars or whatever, but I had totally forgot that they would just take everybody who was in a show and make a bad movie out of it.
Because they had them under contract. They'd shoot in the summer and do this big summer movie. And they advertised that. They go, stars from Family Ties, Amen, Night Court, Matlock, St. Elsewhere, Mama's Boy. Plus Claude Akins, Doris Roberts, Peter Graves, Tracy Nelson, and Keel Martin of Hill Street Blues. Courtney Cox is in this. Stephen Furst is in this. It has Faith Ford in it. This is filmed mostly in Yugoslavia.
Yeah, the blurb for it is amazing.
A broadly played story of American tourists finding romance and adventure in Europe. Filmed mostly in Yugoslavia, this 1987 TV movie is not a remake of the similarly titled and similarly themed 1969 feature.
Right. Here's a bunch of things it's not. I think whoever wrote it didn't watch it either.
No.
They were just bootleg.
Like, okay. Also on that same page, there's
David Leisure too. Wow.
Oh yeah, you got to have Leisure in that. There's an ad for a local party line.
Oh yeah.
So this is Conversations. Dial 1550-2772. Join an ongoing conversation for telephone fun everywhere in the 617 area code. Call Conversations from 3 p.m. till 3 a.m.
At which point it turns off, I guess. Yeah.
I never called any of those, and I forget they were a thing. You just call up and there'd be like a bunch of people talking.
Yeah. I mean, chat rooms, I guess, right?
They had moderators who would kick people off and stuff who were like being abusive.
Right.
So weird.
I have to say, as a former telco nerd, the thing that I find amazing about this is the 15502. I'm like, how did that work?
Yes.
You have one, but then no area code, just an exchange.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Strange times. Is that
right.
your whole Monday?
Oh, no. What else did I have in here? I think I have a note that says MacGyver looks very good.
Oh, yeah. It's the season 2 premiere of MacGyver that night.
Oh, yeah. And then also, if it's Tuesday at Must Be Belgium, why are we showing this on Monday night?
Maybe it lasts for 4 hours into 12 in the morning.
Yeah, the hook is that now it's Tuesday, and that's what resolves the plot.
Yes.
The entire
It's
thing.
like 24. It's in real time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I also had a note for Designing Women and Newhart. Was big into both of those. And and I also, there's somewhere, I'm not going to find it scrolling around, but I find it absolutely crazy as a person who works in sports that they have it's either a roster or a lineup for the football game on Monday.
Yeah.
That information was somehow available or considered credible, like a print deadline away from the actual game. And like, obviously it could be wrong and that's fine, but it's just like, that's information that comes out like maybe 15 minutes before kickoff.
Is that because of injuries?
I to some degree, maybe injuries. And then I guess probably depending on the sport to some amount, it's like, there's some strategy, some matching the other team or whatever it is. Luckily, playing music, I never exactly have to care about that stuff. But being on the headset with everybody who's producing the game, when the lineup comes out, it's like, hold everything, everyone. We need to get this information out to everybody.
I wonder if that's post Moneyball. That's kind of how it is.
Right. Yeah. They're tweaking bit by bit. But I was scrolling through and I was like, my God, it's got the lineup. That makes no sense. I think that's most of my Monday. I noted the Hitchhiker's Guide was there, which is something that I'm a huge fan of the books. Never knew it was even a TV show.
Oh, really?
Grown adult. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked the TV miniseries was pretty great.
Yeah. No, I then went and watched them all and was very happy about it. But yeah. And,
fun.
Marvin in that is fantastic and has his own records, which are great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Marvin, I love you. A big fan.
Yeah. Don't be paranoid, Marvin.
Yeah.
Tuesday, what'd you do?
Tuesday, I have Who's the Boss? I have Knight Rider, which I enjoyed because it was a thing about water rights, I think. It was switching back and forth there. And then the actual premiere of Full House. Is that what that is?
Yep.
Yeah. Definitely did watch that. And I remember being kind of annoyed that there was not more Dave Coulier.
Yeah, because I watched him on Out of Control on Nickelodeon.
Me too. Exactly. I came to it from Out of Control and was like, yeah, the Out of Control guy has a show. And then he was more or less like a minor character side guy the entire time.
Yeah, I was very upset by that. But I specifically remember watching this premiere, and it was Tuesday night premiere. Before this is pre-TGIF. It had not gone on Fridays yet. We didn't know if this show was going to be big. And they have a full page ad here. There's a bunch of premieres on that night. It's a really long description of the show. It says debut, juggling a sportscasting career and playing full-time mom and dad to 3 young girls prompts Danny Tanner to enlist the help of his best friend and his brother-in-law. In the opener, Danny comes home from work to find diapers in Tupperware, his oldest kid's missing, and a surprise visitor.
Right. Well, it's funny, like the fact that that's the pitch for Full House never would occur to you having watched much of the show after that, right?
No.
Like, I did the ad for it. That's like either pages earlier or later. The layout is confusing, but it's 3 grown men discover the joys of motherhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a bunch of, and the other thing is another episode airs Friday in the series regular time slot. So they showed this twice in a week. They were premiering it on Tuesday night because it was a popular night. But that show started, the original pitch of that show was 3 stand-up comedians sharing a house together in LA. No children. That was the original pitch of that show. And then 3 Men and a Baby became very popular.
Oh.
So it morphed sort of along the way, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Or I mean, it doesn't at all, but but that explains how exactly that happened. And now it's, this massive pop culture juggernaut. That I didn't watch any of the new ones. It didn't.
I didn't either. Like, it feels sad to me.
Yes. Many of those things are like, look, we brought back things you remember, and now everyone's older. I'm kind of like,
kind of sad. And some people are dead.
Yeah, exactly. Like, cool. I don't know about that.
Yeah, and then I Married Dora premieres after that, which I love.
Really?
I
remember the actress, but that is all I remember.
It's Elizabeth Pena, who was great, is no longer with us. This also aired on Fridays. They were promoting this on Tuesday. Juliette Lewis was in it. This is a story about a guy who marries his housekeeper so she can stay in the country. And, it's the will they, won't they. It was a pretty typical sitcom, but had a very good cast. And at 10 o'clock, Crime Story, second season premiere. This show's amazing. It is I always call it Michael Mann Mad Men. This takes place in the 60s. Dennis Farina. The second season is all in Las Vegas, 60s Las Vegas. Kevin Spacey is one of the villains. Jenny Wright is in this episode. This is just a really entertaining show. Only lasted 2 seasons, but man, is it good. Cool.
This was actually the ad that I came across that made me remember that all of my favorite actors were also young. I mean, not that like Dennis Farina, I think technically was ever young. I'm pretty sure he was born at 40, but like even then looking at him and I don't know the name of the guy on his left, but he's in everything in the ad.
Oh yeah. It's all Chicago actors. So like when they were shooting tons of stuff in Chicago, like you've seen every single one of these guys play a cop in a ton of movies.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Like here we have your character actors for basically everything. And then I think I came across their Moonlighting at 10 too, which was kind of exciting because I think that's the point in Moonlighting where they didn't, they became, they did.
Yes.
And things changed.
It got a little bad at that point, but got extra surreal because of all the behind the scenes stuff. There's also an ad for an after school special that will be on Wednesday. It's called The Kid Who Wouldn't Quit, the Brad Silverman story. This is a little bit weird. It's a story about a kid with Down syndrome who's determined to be a regular kid. He's supported by his parents, equally determined to mainstream as he struggles to gain his goal of going to college. But the Brad, who's a real kid, appears in the after school special, but not playing himself. And playing him is Casey Martell, who plays Mike's best friend, the non-boner best friend, Eddie, on Growing Pains. It seems like a real car wreck of a thing. And I'm like, this has got to be super cringe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, of its time in that way, probably too. Yeah. The thing that actually struck me among all of these bits here, I think we went past the Free to Believe thing. I don't know if that was tonight or not.
Yes.
It's probably for the best that we go past it. But I was amazed to read the 2-hour conservative propaganda special that they're doing as a week-long thing to tell you about prayer in school it's like one of those things just watching. I'm like, oh, this was the fake issue then. Yeah. Like this was the wedge thing that they were using for no reason that doesn't matter. That was, just to make people disagree with each other. It's crazy.
Yeah. And because the next night on Wednesday, there's a thing called Life in a Fundamentalist Church Born Again. Profiles of members of a Baptist church in Worcester, Mass. So it's like
wild.
I want to watch a documentary about people in Worcester, Mass in 1987, regardless of what they're doing. But it is very weird to see this much religion on network television in primetime during a whole week.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And then also the weird ad about claiming some sort of bronze medallion if you're a veteran seems just like amazingly in terrible taste.
Yes. Like what a scam to make some money. There's a lot of weird.
Let's make some money off of veterans.
Yes.
Let's start there. That seems like the right group of people.
Especially in 87, because the veterans we would have would have been Vietnam vets who were at least 12 years out of that thing. So, you're looking at some older people here.
Yeah.
It's getting a little weird.
Real weird. Where did we end up here?
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Realistically, I would have started with Back to School on Cinemax.
It's a great movie.
I watched that movie many, many times as a kid and as a grown person.
I think it's Rodney Dangerfield's best movie.
I think you may have a point there. Definitely.
Unless there's some Ladybug fans out there.
No, that wouldn't be it. I mean, he did a wonderful job briefly in Caddyshack, but after that, I think you kind of nailed it. This is clearly his vehicle and is very well done.
Yeah,
I think I watched that like last year at some point. Like it doesn't. To be clear, it doesn't hold up in terms of modern cultural sensibilities at all, but it's still real entertaining.
Oh yeah,
all the way through. Not to mention the Oingo Boingo in Dorm Room cameo, which is amazing.
It's Danny Elfman, not counting Forbidden Zone. The first 2 film scores he did were Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Back to School at the same time, which is really weird. And yeah, Oingo Boingo appears in the movie.
Yeah,
there's so many great one-liners in that movie. Like,
Yep.
hey, why don't you help me straighten out my Longfellow? Oddly, Steve Sweeney's in that movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he plays a cop, like a campus policeman. There's a bunch of young stand-ups at the time who would regularly play Dangerfield's clubs that he features in the movie, including Sam Kinison, who has that part.
Yep.
And
As the teacher, right?
Very weird. Triple Lindy is something that I reference probably weekly.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. I remember the thing that struck me a lot when I first saw it was the like I don't get when I don't get mad, I get upset, and then Lou gets mad, and like he just comes out and doesn't look like he could kick anyone's ass at all, but clearly can just by virtue of being that guy.
Do you remember what he does? He crushes a napkin dispenser.
Yeah,
to demonstrate his abilities.
Which didn't seem that tough then, but now I think about if I could do it, and I'm like, no, I would absolutely tear my hand apart.
Oh
like
yeah.
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. as the wacky best friend. This was his 2 roles he had that year in that same similar role. Also Weird Science in 85. Yep. Also featuring an Oingo Boingo title track song.
Right. Oh, what's so strange. It's actually, that movie is I don't even know if I still to this day have seen Christine, just coincidentally, but despite having worked in a video store. But that is the whole reason I know who Keith Gordon is Back to School. Like, anytime I ever saw him after, I'm like, oh, it's the guy from Back to School. And then you said now he's like a successful director and has like a whole nother thing going on. But in my mind, he is always just the kid from Back to School.
I think he knows that for most people. He's either the kid from Back to School or the kid from Christine. Despite him having directed, I think, like 10 movies now. And and he was also in Brian De Palma's, I think, Blow Up or Dress to Kill, one of those.
Sure.
That is a great movie. And I think you make the right choice there, despite the fact that Highway to Heaven and The Oldest Rookie are both on.
I could never do Highway to Heaven.
No.
Even at the time it was out, I was like, it was like porridge. Like, there was a tasteless mass of television that even trying to get excited about it, I was like, what is this? But also makes you feel bad. Like, in an effort to feel good, it was always some horrible thing happening to people. Yeah.
So it always just bummed me out. And like this episode, literally, this is the season 1 ended on a cliffhanger. So this is the season premiere of season 2, which is the resolution of that. And it says, the orphan Alex is reunited with his lost dog, only to face separation again when he's accepted by a foster family.
Total bait and switch.
Yeah, I'm like, that's brutal. I don't want to see that again.
Yeah. There was another thing in here somewhere. Oh, I was excited to see Gary Shandling. I definitely actually watched Head of the Class, probably because there's probably, I don't know if we had Cinemax at that point, but I feel like I probably would have been prevented from watching it at night anyway.
Yeah, this is before Fox started airing its Gary Shandling show. It was originally a Cinemax series.
Yeah. And then the thing that really struck me here was the HBO ad as they're trying to get people to sign up for HBO. But what a specific moment in time where it's HBO World Stage and the ad is Billy Joel, but he's holding guitar.
Yes.
Like, sing us a song. No.
Guitar, man? It's like when Dylan went electric, when Billy Joel went guitar.
Yeah.
When he went to the USSR, I think he's doing his special Behind the Iron Curtain.
That is, I think, yup. That looks familiar. I think that's what it. Also, I was hoping you would know this. I was going to try and look it up, and then I didn't have time to. The original Max Headroom Talking Headroom show.
Yep.
I remember Max Headroom, the TV show.
Yes. So Max Headroom started. It was a TV movie in the UK on Channel 4.
Yeah.
And it took place in this sort of dystopian future where corporations own everything. It's actually very good and very sort of cyberpunky.
Totally.
But after that, Cinemax said we like this character, and this is pre-Coke spokesman, and had Max Headroom as almost like a Space Ghost Coast to Coast talk show host, and they did a whole season of a talk show with Max Headroom. And from that got the Coke ads, became such a phenomenon in the States that I believe it was CBS went back to Channel 4 and the UK and said, let's do a TV series based on this original movie that you made. And then that was the Max Headroom TV series. It was a very, very odd journey that I'm surprised we haven't gotten like a 12-part podcast about, or like an oral history of Max Headroom.
Yeah, no, I would sign up for that. Absolutely. I had never known about the talk show part. I knew about the show that they made. I don't think I ever knew it was a TV movie though. In Britain, that's wild.
Yeah, it's a cool show, and the talk show's funny. Like it's a weird.
I bet.
It's very weird and ahead of its time. We also have The Equalizer premiering that night, which is now on TV with Queen Latifah playing the Equalizer, which is strange. In the new CBS version of The Equalizer. This particular episode has Tom Atkins in it, who is just great. Tom Atkins, people would know from Night of the Creeps and Halloween 3 and Creepshow. And yeah, I'll watch The Equalizer any day of the week.
Sure.
And Hooperman as well, which was John Ritter's show. This is the debut where it was a weird shot on film single cam sitcom where he plays a not a hostage negotiator, but like a police, like a guy who like talks people down from ledges and stuff. Yeah.
I remember seeing it, but I also don't remember watching too many of them, I don't think.
It was a little too dramedy for the time. I think people wanted Three's Company, John Ritter, and it again was kind of ahead of its time. And it's a fun show. It was good quality show.
Yeah.
Thursday.
Thursday, I throw my hands in the air. Every single thing on the television is amazing. I did watch Tour of Duty quite a bit. Speaking of your TV theme songs, if we can count Paint It Black, I think that probably clobbers a lot of other TV theme songs pretty well. But of course not, technically not really a TV theme song. Sledgehammer, which I watched. I remember watching that and being confused that it had nothing to do with Peter Gabriel.
Yes, which that video was huge. Sledgehammer was Alan. Oh my God, why am I forgetting Alan's last name? But he was a protege of Mel Brooks, and he created this sort of goofy show that was a parody of the Dirty Harry movies starring David Rasche. Theme song by Danny Elfman. Yeah, 2 seasons, very funny show. I always mention it has one of the best season finales in that. Season 1, they thought the show was going to get canceled. So the finale of season 1, which also stars Mary Warnoff, there's a nuclear bomb that goes off and kills everybody.
What?
Because they were like, the show's done. Nuclear bomb.
Why not?
And then they were like, you're renewed. So season two, they changed the title to Sledgehammer: The Early Years.
Oh,
it's
wow.
the same show.
That explains so much. I love that they didn't retcon it though.
Nope.
Like that they didn't just have him be like, wake up from a dream and be like, oh, the entire world is not.
Alan Spenser, that's his name. I had to pull that up. But yeah, it's very funny, very silly show. I really love that show.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember me and my friends very into Tour of Duty, and obviously like The Cosby Show, Different World, Cheers, Night Court. I mean, that no reason to reach for the dial. And then Ghostbusters is on also. Like
yes.
I mean, I hope that this was at an era in time where we had remote controls in the house and that it would not have been constantly getting up to change the channel, because I think I would have just ended up sitting 2 feet away from the screen, like going through and trying to never watch a commercial.
Oh yeah, this one is tough because also this is like the season premiere of Cheers. This is the first one that introduces Kirstie Alley's character. Right. Different World is the series premiere. So this is the very first episode of A Different World, and the Cosby Show is the spin-off of it that leads into it. Different World is such a great show. Cosby Show, again, I've said this before, great show despite him being a monster. Tour of Duty is a show that doesn't get mentioned a lot now. I think China Beach kind of overshadowed it reputation-wise, but it was one of 2 dramedies set in Vietnam.
Yeah, right.
And was a great show. And I don't think really ever reran, but was good.
Yeah. I don't have any specific memories of like things that happened in it, but I definitely remember we all, like me and my friends all watched it and like were very into it with, you know, at age, whatever, 10, like no concept of Vietnam at all.
Yeah,
just
you didn't know those people could get medallions from the TV Guide.
Yeah. If only. Yeah, no.
I do want to mention Captain Wallace in that episode is played by Kevin Conroy, who people best know now as the voice of Batman on Batman animated series.
Oh, that's wild.
Wise Guy premieres that night.
I mean, it's not possible. I was just blown away. I literally kept going and was like, and it's the Cheers with Kirstie Alley. And it was not. And you just need to watch everything that night. It's not,
10 o'clock, the premiere of Unsolved Mysteries, when it was just a special, and it was hosted by Carl Malden before Robert Stack.
Oh, wow. Oh, have you seen it?
Yes, there was two specials that Carl Malden hosts. It's pretty much exactly like the Robert Stack one, but it's Carl Malden. Because he was doing those American Express Don't Leave Home Without It ads.
Yep.
So basically, it's almost like they were shooting those, and they were like, "Hey, Carl, can you stick around for another 10 minutes?"
Yeah.
You talk about this guy who disappeared who had 6 wives.
Put on this other jacket. Yeah.
But it was unique in that it had a phone number. So they were the first show to be like, if you know anything, call this number, which America's Most Wanted had premiered that year as well and done that. But this was like a very new phenomenon where people could like interact with the show and like, drop a dime on people.
Right. That guy's my neighbor. Yeah.
I know him. So what a night.
The Night Court also looks amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. Like, I feel like that is also one that I definitely did watch. It's so strange to remember how much like Night Court, even though it was a very like, sitcom, every episode is the same kind of thing. Like, they really did advance the plot quite a bit over the entire series of the show.
There's character development. There really is on that show. That was a cliffhanger that ended the previous season where Harry was removed from the bench and Christine was installed as a judge. And so this is the sort of, it was actually a 4-part, 2 parts at the end of the previous season and 2 parts at the start of the next season. So you had a 4-part episode. It's very good. And of course we just lost Marky Post, but she's particularly great in it. It is, Night Court's a show that I rewatch often, and it's very fun.
Yeah, no, totally great. Oh, and also a great, as we talked about TV theme songs, if you are stuck in an instant replay review where nothing happens and everyone watches umpires or referees or whatever kind of officials they happen to be sitting there with headphones on watching TV, Night Court, absolutely perfect. Somewhere in the world, I found an extended like 4-minute version of the theme.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I can't find proof of its release. Like, I don't know where it came from, other than probably LimeWire at some point. But it is absolutely perfect for like, everybody knows exactly what it is. And it's, you're all just sitting there watching, waiting for a thing to happen anyway.
One of the first songs I had to learn on the bass guitar was the Night Court theme. That is just fun to play. Mm-hmm. Final night of the week, Friday night.
Friday nights. Where did I end up with this? This was the thing. It took me all week to notice, which is probably a little embarrassing. Knight Rider was in evening syndication on some channel. It was just on every single night.
Yeah,
because I had to realize I made a note to watch it like 3 times, and I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, TV 68, which then became, I think, not Univision, but it became like a home shopping club around here. But they were showing Night Rider every night.
Got it. Huh. I mean, I probably watched a great many of them. It was very into Knight Rider, whether or not it. I suppose. I mean, Knight Rider is a show that I feel like I can't rewatch particularly well. I mean, it is sort of like,
it's silly as hell.
Yeah, it's tough to take. Yeah.
It's slow too.
Yeah, it's wonderful if you're a child.
In the 80s, a child now would be bored to tears.
Right. No, it's true. You'd be like, what happens now? You'd be like, no, the car is going to go faster and jump. Yeah. And
we're going to show him open the car door, sit down in the car, start the car, drive just have him in the car.
It is amazing to think about how many times in that show they used the shot of him depressing the accelerator that then lit up.
Yes.
Like that was a special.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's one of those ones that doesn't quite come together. I think Friday for me was basically the story of Max Headroom. Honestly,
Yeah.
I am a fan of the show that I am now placing in time as the third iteration, I guess, of the one that started with Blipverts and went from there. And to me, even the notion that it was like on network television completely blows me away.
That is one of the most subversive shows we've ever had on television. It is literally one of the most critical shows of network television you could possibly imagine. And I have to they just must have gone totally over their heads. I don't know.
Yeah. Or they just thought it was one of those things where none of the execs actually watched it. They were like, oh, he's a news guy. All right.
Coke ads? Sure.
Sounds good. Yeah.
I had such a crush on Amanda Pays.
Yep. Right with you there.
Tried to have her on the show several times. She's an interior designer now, still married to Corbin Burnson. Called me once to very nicely tell me she won't do the show. She doesn't like to talk about her acting career. But I almost passed out because she still sounds like Amanda Pays.
Yeah. And I mean, that's who she is, right? You know, she might be one of the first quote unquote guy in the chairs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she did basically the same character on The Flash in 1990.
Oh, wild. I've only ever known her from Max Headroom. But yes, I too, I can sympathize with you suddenly just listening to your voicemail and going, oh, holy shit.
Yeah. No, I answered it. And she was like very nice and was just like, I was like, oh, thanks, Amanda Pays. Yeah, there are a few phone calls of people who have had to have guests on the show who like are a little older and they don't email. They just like call you back. Tom Noonan was another one that really scared me because he sounds exactly like Dollarhide from Manhunter. That character he plays, the Tooth Fairy. You know, like, hey, Kent, Tom Noonan, like it, and you're like, oh my god, you're gonna murder me. He was also very nice. He just didn't have time. But yeah, there's some interesting things like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I just it's like the weirdness of meeting people from radio in real life.
Oh yeah, they never look like you think they will.
Absolutely never. I actually had that happen to me for the first time. As somebody like they saw a GIF of me and were like, "Oh, you don't look at all what I thought." And I was like, "I'm sure it's disappointing." Like I don't know what you think, but
I think we live in a society where it's too easy to see the people now. But I would have loved to have seen a show where you get police sketch artists and members of the public to try to describe what they think a DJ looks like. Oh. And then you compare the two. And I think literally the only one everyone would get right is Shadow Stevens.
Yep. Shadow Absolutely. Before even Hollywood Squares, you'd be like, yep, that's what that guy looks like.
You've described him exactly correct. But it's such a weird thing.
Did you have him on at some point?
I did, yeah.
I listened. The pandemic killed my podcast listening.
You and a lot of other people, I understand.
I mean, no driving in the car.
Yeah.
So that was kind of it. But I listened to this forever, and I remember that one quite a bit. He had the bit about being your friend in the void.
Oh yeah, and he was a DJ in Boston in 1968, and he has one of my favorite quotes where he goes, "That's when I discovered a regular coffee already has cream and sugar in it," and I said, "My God, I'm in hell."
Oh, that's awesome.
It was great. It was just like, doing this show is worth it just for this moment alone. This is a tough night too. I mean, there's just so much stuff. Full House is on again. Married Dora is on again. Max Headroom is on. 2020 has moved to Friday nights, which again, I mentioned is the only show my parents ever banned me from watching, mostly because I complained about stuff too much and I think it just annoyed them.
Wait, 2020 is the actual news show, right?
Yes. So I watched that every week and I was paranoid about everything. Flirty fishing in the Moonies, medical waste on the beach, lap seat belts, so everything. So this one this week is about a report that considers the safety of surgical procedures to remove or transfer body fat, included procedure footage and comments by cosmetic and plastic surgeons. So I would have been like, if my parents had to go have a mole removed, I would have been like, you're going to die, don't do this. So they were just like, you're not allowed to watch that show anymore.
Right. No more of that for you. Oh, that's fair.
So that is the week. But to wrap up here, as you know, TV Guide, it is not just informative, it has opinions, and it cheers and it jeers. And I would like to read you the cheers and jeers of this week, September 19th to the 25th, 1987, see if you agree or disagree with TV Guide's opinions. My TV Guide scan has frozen, so let me...
Yeah.
Reboot this
TV
month.
Guide is long.
Oh yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like I remember handling these physical objects, and I mean, it's like a book every week.
Yeah.
Like a mass market paperback, but still like.
Oh, yeah.
I was astounded to discover there's 80, 100 pages in this thing.
Easily. And it's funny too, where I, because it got bigger until it's still published, although it's not what it was like then. Yeah. But when people pick an issue, if someone's older and they're like 1958, I'm like, awesome. This only take me a half hour to scan. But then someone's like, oh, 1998. I'm like, son of a bitch. That's 400 pages.
Yeah.
But it's fine. And I'm glad that I have them scanned because now I have them all.
Sure.
Here we are. Cheers and jeers. So, good news. It's a cheer heavy week. We have 3 cheers, 1 jeer. It starts with the jeer, but would you like to save the jeer for last or get it out of the way?
You do you. I'm here.
Let's save the jeer for last.
Okay.
We'll end on a low note, like I always like to do. Cheers to PBS's American Playhouse for commissioning new works from Emerging Playwrights. A great number of the people we draw on from our television series are American playwrights, says Lindsay Law, executive producer of the series. We rob the theater, but we don't give anything back. Maybe through this program, we can nourish what's going on in theater. The plays will be presented on stage first and later adapted for TV. All right, whatever.
I actively have to remember that Lindsay Law in this case is definitely a public television producer.
Yes.
Just think of any other network of any kind being like, we're going to steal from the theater and help them get better.
Yes.
Oh my God, get your face out of the Coke.
And this woman probably, she has to look like Diane Keaton. There's no way she doesn't look exactly like Diane Keaton.
If we're going to cast her, let's go with that. Yeah.
Cheers to the Disney Channel for reviving College Bowl and even running it on Sunday afternoon time slot it once occupied on CBS and NBC. It's always nice to see TV's more challenging fare get a new lease on life. Another chance to match wits with the champions is a perfect case in point and an excellent alternative to the NFL.
So, College Bowl, question mark?
This was a college quiz show. So University Challenge, kind of Granite State Challenge kind of thing. It got canceled by the networks and Disney Channel brought it back. And I love how this is like those cavemen in the NFL.
Yeah. Lest you have to watch just people slamming into each other.
Right.
Learn something. Yeah.
Cheers to a healthy trend in daytime soaps, toning down the promiscuity in favor of good old-fashioned romance. Maybe it's all the talk and worry about AIDS, but whatever it is, the soaps seem to have taken a cold shower, reserving the steamy scenes for characters with long-term relationships. Can love sonnets and minstrels be far away?
I had a note about this note when I was reading through it, as I basically started to react in general to realizing what, in fact, Reagan's America was.
Yeah.
As I was like, my God, how... It's just strange to me to think, you and I are around the same age.
Yep.
And just how different your perspective is if you're just a little bit older than we are.
Mm-hmm.
To be like, oh, no, this is all... the 90s were the 90s, and you're like, oh, everything is garbage and also great. But then... every single word of that, every clause in those sentences is horrifying individually for different reasons.
For sure. They're like, thank God for AIDS. Now we can get rid of all this promiscuity on the soap operas.
Yeah. Gee,
That's a cruel grandma statement if I've ever heard one.
And it's on Cheers. And it's not a jeer. It's whatever.
That should be a jeer. And finally, jeers to the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences for a glaring oversight. Among the shows and performers who didn't get nominations for this year's Emmys are CBS's Newhart, ABC's Our World, Sybil Shepherd from Moonlighting, Malcolm Jamal Warner from Cosby Show. We thought the Emmys were supposed to salute the best on TV. Unless it's just a slip up, how could these folks have been omitted? I 100% agree with this.
Yep. No, I have no beef with any of that. God, Newhart was so good. And really the best, I would put forth probably the best last episode, best ending of a TV show.
Easily.
I can't think of a better, MASH was very touching, I guess, but no other show. I remember and I was young enough that I had to have it explained to me by my parents. because they were crying laughing.
Oh, yeah.
They thought it was the best thing in the world.
The fact that they were able to keep that under wraps, so it truly was a surprise when it aired, is one of the, granted pre-internet, but still like one of the most amazing feats in Hollywood history. They were able to pull that off. I mean, they shot that, for months they had that under wraps.
Yeah. Yeah, and like how many people were just involved in producing that one shot? Then they all managed to just keep their mouths shut that entire time.
Yeah, the audience didn't know. Like that is fantastic. Well, thank you for doing this. I'm so glad we finally got to do it.
Yes, absolutely. I know. I was telling someone when I was going to do this, I was like, I feel like you and I have basically been like walking into the room the other one just walked out of for our entire lives.
Yeah, of course.
Like, oh, he was just here. No.
Does he really exist? I swear.
Yeah, no way. Well, he has a podcast. Okay.
That seat's still warm. Well, thank you so much. There you go. That's TJ. He has not been invaded by his neighbor through the wall, at least as far as I know. At least as of that recording, he has not. He may be now, so I should go check on him. Speaking of checking on things, if you would like to check in on me or let me know how you're doing, you can do so at tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com or ken@icanread.com. Also at TV Guidance or at Kenneth W. Reed on social media. Let me know what you're up to. Let me know what your Halloween plans are. If you have any guests you want me to try to get on the show, I always try to get them. They don't always agree, but at least attempt on your behalf. And again, thank you to the patrons. Let me know if there's anything you'd like to see on there, anything that would entice you to be a patron. Even $1 a month is a huge help to the show, pretty much covers all my costs so that I don't lose money on the show, despite losing some of my mind. So anyway, we'll see you here next time for a brand new edition of TV Guidance Counselor.
I was blown away by the ad for both Alf and Valerie's Family.
Oh, yes.